Good morning, everyone. I am Casey, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today about Proposition CC. They are working on loading the PowerPoint. I'm glad they're trying that and not me because I wouldn't get it done. I do much better with words than I do with technology. So who in here has heard of Proposition CC? Yay, I love you all. So this year, the legislature referred Proposition CC to the ballot because we think that critical areas of the state are underfunded. Colorado's population and our economy are booming. According to U.S. News and World Report, Colorado has the #1 economy in the country. But here's another statistic. We are 40th in the country for funding in K-12 education. We are $2,500 below the national average for per pupil funding in K-12 education. We are in the bottom 5 states for per pupil investment in higher education. We're in the bottom 10 states for per resident investment in our roads and bridges and transit. So help me figure this out. Why does Colorado, who has the best economy in the country, have the lowest investments in our people and in our infrastructure? Good answer. Proposition CC does not amend Tabor. We're not changing Tabor. We're actually just doing what Tabor asks. Tabor says go to voters if you want to change tax policy or tax rates or tax law. So we're going to ask voters. We are not proposing a tax increase with this measure. We do not propose a new tax, and it is not a tax rate change. It simply says, without raising taxes, and to better fund public education and roads, bridges, and transit, can the state keep the money it collects that is currently above the statewide spending cap and make investments with that money in 3 areas within a balanced budget and subject to an annual audit. Those 3 areas are K-12, higher ed, and roads, bridges, and transit. Is this lecture funny?
I'm having some trouble.
Okay. That's okay. Well, I can keep talking. So in the next year, we are expected to be $300 million above the Tabor cap. The year after that, we're expected to be $300 million over the Tabor cap. Beyond that, it's really hard to predict. We don't know what's going to happen in the economy. Some years we'll be above the Tabor cap and some years we won't. But more often than not, going forward, we are going to be above the Tabor cap because Colorado has a strong economy, because we're now able to collect internet sales tax, because population is moving to Colorado and making and paying income tax and sales tax, and we are growing faster than inflation. So in the next 2 years, we'll have collectively $600 million over the Tabor cap. That's $200 million that would go to K-12, $200 million for higher ed, $200 million for roads, bridges, and transit. It won't happen every year. It just allows us, when the economy is good, to take advantage of that and make investments in critical areas. It doesn't make sense, when we know recessions will happen, to not save and use and invest in the years when we're doing well. So the opposition says this is a tax increase. It's not. The ballot measure actually begins without raising taxes. Can the state, and to better fund K-12, higher ed, and roads, bridges, and transit. So we don't increase taxes, we don't increase the tax rate. Future Tabor refunds will not happen under this measure. In 2021, the Tabor refund is expected to be about $37 per person per year. That's the cost of a cup of coffee. If you live in Boulder, it's not even the cost of a cup of coffee per month. The year after that, we anticipate it's about $40 per person per year. This ballot measure can pass. Past ballot measures, last year we had Amendment 73 and Proposition 110. Both began, shall taxes be raised $1 trillion, or I don't remember. A lot, $1 billion. And they probably competed against each other. This year, we brought K-12 advocates, transportation advocates, and higher ed together and said, can we work together to solve our revenue issue? And instead of competing, can we all come together? So that's what we've done. We have K-12 advocates, transportation advocates, and higher ed advocates, all part of the team to get this passed. Oh, yay, there we go. Can you go, so that shows how much in the next year. Oh, is it?
Forward or back?
Oh, keep going forward. There we go. So things would be split over the next 2 years evenly. Like I said, basically about $100 million per category in the next 2 years. Go ahead. This is something people have seen before. 96% of school districts, 84% of counties, and 80% of cities, municipalities have all done this before. They've all said, yes, let's get rid of the spending cap. We did it in 2005 on a temporary basis with REF-C. REF-C was a 5-year timeout from the taper cap. This one is permanent. Go ahead. This just gives some of the statistics I already told you. Some of the reasons that we're in this position is because 25 years ago, most of K-12 spending came from local governments. But because of the Gallagher Amendment and the limitation on local property taxes, now most of K-12 spending comes from the state. At the same time, we have increased pressure on our general fund to fund transportation. Why is that? In 1992, Colorado passed a gas tax, and it was 22 cents a gallon. In 2019, our gas tax is 22 cents a gallon. It was not indexed to inflation, and it's never increased since then. And 22 cents today, but in 1992, is 10 cents today. So the buying power of that has decreased by over 40%, and cars are more fuel efficient, and there are more cars on the road. So our gas tax isn't doing the job. So now we have new pressure on the budget for transportation. We have new pressure on the budget for K-12. And then, you all might know a little bit something about this. We have an aging population of baby boomers who are demanding more in healthcare services. And healthcare, the things that government buys, just typically construction costs and healthcare, are growing faster than inflation. So healthcare is crowding out, healthcare costs are crowding out K-12 and higher ed, and it's putting huge pressure. So we have an opportunity to maybe not solve the issue, but take a good bite out of it with Prop CC. Can you move forward? That's about roads and bridges. Let's move forward. Okay, so this is going to be good for our economy. One of the other pieces of opposition, people say, this is government growing. Tell me, if we're hiring construction workers, do you consider that government growing? If we're spending money to attract and retain teachers, to reduce class size, to get technology into schools, is that government growing? If we're helping students attend college by making sure they have less student debt, is that government growing? That's what this measure is going to do. Let's move forward. So I talked about, is this a tax increase? No. Is this a blank check? That's another big one. This is a blank check. We're actually very specific. It has to be divided in 3 ways and only 3 ways. However, the specifics of how the money is spent is up to local folks mostly. So for K-12 education, it gets divided on a per pupil basis, and local school boards decide how they're going to spend that. For transportation, 40% goes to local governments for improvements in local roads, arterials, that sort of thing. 15% transit and 45% for major highway projects. And for higher ed, higher ed is going to have a stakeholder process to divide for themselves how to fund it. Largely it's going to be used for student scholarships, for capital construction, and for community colleges and technical colleges.
And are those in the bill specifically?
Yeah, so on the higher ed portion, it just says that it will be divided amongst higher ed to be determined later. The other things are specifically in the bill. So higher ed is going to have a stakeholder process amongst higher ed to decide. What they've been saying all amongst themselves is support for colleges, area and technical colleges, and student scholarships. But we'll have to put that into law. Next. Is it going to cure everything? No. I think the state actually needs, if we really want to get on par with the rest of the nation for K-12 spending, this isn't going to do it, but it's going to help. And what else do I want to tell you? I will take questions. This is what I want to tell you. A little bit about the campaign. Yes on propcc.com. So when Ref C passed, it never pulled above 50%. When Amendment 23 passed, it never pulled above 50%. We are polling above 50%. The area of voters that show that we have the most need to reach, the ones that are the swingiest, you're going to love this. White women above the age of 60. Do you know any? You guys are very swingy. We need your vote, and we need you all talking to your friends to get out their vote. 2019 is an off-year election. It means it's cheaper to communicate to voters, but there are fewer voters. They tend to be more educated voters, and they tend to be education voters. They're educated and they vote on education because there are school board elections. We need those voters to actually turn in their ballots. A lot of older women may not be engaged in school board races, but otherwise vote and are otherwise educated, and we need to get them to the polls. We need to make sure they turn in their ballots. The ways that you can help: post on social media, write a letter to the editor, email your friends, show up and talk about it, and help get out the vote. Are there any questions? I won't pick the, you're gonna choose. Here she comes with the microphone. Yes.
Alice Ramsey from Rapid Douglas. A couple of the most outspoken Republican
You have a few down there.
opponents.
Yeah.
For instance, I think Hank Brown is one who has said that referendum C didn't work because the money didn't come to the colleges, didn't come to the roads, and so he's voting no. Is CC better?
Sure.
Describe who's getting what and when?
So Ref C simply said, let's take the time out from the taper cap, and we can spend it in anything that general fund spending is spent on. So it absolutely did that. So what they're trying to say now is, well, we don't know where the money went. We know exactly where the money went. It went into the general fund to fund the things that the general fund funds, which is K-12 education, higher ed, human services, healthcare, and prisons. That's exactly where it went. And actually, they specified fire and police pensions in Ref C. That went to fire and police. That's the only place it went. There's an annual audit. It is complete and total BS to say that we don't know where it went. If Ref C had not passed, the taper cap would have been reset and we'd be up billions of dollars every year. So Ref C is not specific. It just named every category of general fund spending, and that's exactly where it all went. So people would say, well, we expected more and we expected more. I can tell you, if it hadn't passed, the state budget literally would be bankrupt. because the minute we have recession, the cap would reset to that lowest level, and all of our higher ed spending would be gone. The majority of our K-12 spending would have been gone. I don't know how they would have made those choices. So when they say, well, where did it go? It went everywhere it was supposed to. What you mean is what would have been lost? And basically the entire budget would have been lost. So no, it's total BS. I don't know why. It's a scare tactic, but it's not based in fact.
Andrew? Thank you. I'm Andrea Mitchell from Denver, and we had a presentation from Carol Hedges this week in our briefing series. And we had an excellent couple questions from a member of our audience, a young woman asking about why this money couldn't be used for teacher salaries or additional teacher FTEs. And I think that's an important question that will come up among educators. And could you just clarify why this is restricted to one-time funding?
Yeah, it says non-recurring expenses. So non-recurring expenses could be anything in the classroom that's one-time spending. It could be technology. It could be teacher bonuses. It can be money to attract and retain teachers. It can't go into base funding because we don't know from year to year if there will be money over the taper cap. So, I mean, that's kind of one of the advantages and the disadvantages. We're not increasing your taxes. We're not increasing base funding that always goes to the government. All we know is when Colorado's economy is booming, we end up over the taper cap, and we have to do taper refunds. We want to take that money and use it for investments, and there's lots of them besides just teacher salary. Like I said, money to attract and retain teachers, teacher bonuses, but not base funding, because it could disappear from year to year. So you could do it to actually hire FTE on a one-year basis. Or like we don't know in my kid's school from year to year if he's going to have a para-educator in there or not. That's absolutely used for that. It could be used to reduce class size if you can't use it for base funding.
Do we have time for one more question?
Oh my gosh, you guys are already so fully educated about it. Celeste.
So I just want to make clear that, Celeste Landry from Boulder County, I just want to make clear that we're talking about there's going to be no more ratchet effect, right? Because
So the ratchet effect was actually addressed with Ref C because it reset the base, and it doesn't. Ref C, the biggest thing Ref D said is every time there's a recession, the taper cap doesn't go down with revenue, and that's what used to happen. Because wherever the budget was at the moment, the budget from that point could never grow more than population plus inflation. Now it's a set amount, and from that amount it can't grow more than population plus inflation. So we don't have the ratchet today. Ref C got rid of the ratchet. Yes.
If we have a recession, could we have the ratchet again?
No. But that was a question, if we made it temporary, would we have somehow re-put in the ratchet? And that's the reason why we didn't make it temporary. So, yes. Did you?
Just a quick request, I heard, can we get a copy of your presentation?
You can have a copy of my presentation, absolutely. You guys are welcome to distribute it. I think in your folders, there's something here. This is something you can, just a one-pager that you can print out and share. You can go to yesonpropcc.com. You can go on Facebook and go to yesonpropcc and like and share that. But it really is, you guys are a really important part of our effort to pass this. Because if you help get out the vote, you're getting out critical voters that we need to be talking to. I'll tell you, this campaign has raised more money than Amendment 73, so we have the ability to pass it. We're polling above 50%, but the no campaign, those scare tactics, it's a tax increase. It's not. We don't know where the money's going. It's very specific in the bill and in the ballot language. Those have an effect. If we can't do this, If we can't convince voters without raising taxes, can we spend the money you're already sending us in taxes? We're in trouble, because we are only going to be falling further and further behind when it comes to K-12, when it comes to my kids and everyone's grandkids being able to attend Colorado universities. And when it comes to our roads, we're going to fall behind, and it's going to affect everything we do. And so this is critical. We have a real chance of passing it, and if you all can help, you're just a critical part of getting this done. So thank you for letting me talk to you today. Thank you for being education voters. Thank you for caring about this issue. Thanks for engaging and getting others to engage, because it really matters. You guys are awesome.
Okay, we're on the edge of taking our break, but let me tell you also in your packet that there is a piece of paper about CC and a little bit about DD, but it also says some things that you could do in your local league. What we have asked is that every local league endorse CC. So if you go to the CC campaign website, you will find an endorsement form. There's also in that same toolkit website for the state league information on Tabor. There's a sort of historical background on Tabor, and it's a PowerPoint you can use yourself, or you can have, again, invite a state league person to come and make the presentation for you if you prefer that. So there is plenty of information. We need several things done, and Speaker Becker did mention, talk to your friends, op-eds to the newspaper, letters to the editor, get on social media, all those kinds of things. This is a priority. It's happening this November, and so it needs to be taken care of now.